The silent night broken the night on Mars was quiet. The base lay under the red sky, its lights glowing faintly like candles against the endless desert. Inside, soldiers, engineers, and scientists moved through their routines. Some were finishing reports, others were repairing equipment, and a few were laughing in the mess hall. It was a night like any other, calm and almost peaceful, but peace never lasts long on the frontier dot far above Mars. In the silent dark, something was moving. A fleet of alien ships crept closer, their hulls hidden by advanced cloaking fields. They were patient hunters, waiting for the right moment. For them, Earth's colony was weak, unprepared, and ripe for destruction. Down below, the base's radar officers leaned lazily over their screens, half bored. Nothing ever happened here, they thought. Mars was quiet, isolated, far from the main lines of galactic trade or war. But then one of the screens flickered. Contact. The officer whispered, his voice unsure. He blinked, leaned closer, tapped the side of the monitor. That can't be right. The dots on the radar multiplied, dozens and hundreds. Moving fast dot, the alarm screamed. Red lights flashed across the base. Soldiers jumped from their bunks, boots hitting the floor. Engineers grabbed emergency kits. Voices shouted through the comms, urgent and panicked. Multiple hostiles incoming. Unknown fleet detected, closing fast. Brace for impact. Outside, the black sky above. Mars lit up. Trails of fire streaked downward. A first alien missile screamed into the atmosphere, their engines cutting through the thin Martian air. The ground shook as the first explosion ripped through the base's outer wall. Concrete shattered, metal twisted, and fire spilled into the night. The peaceful silence was broken, replaced with chaos, destruction, and fear. Civilians screamed as the shockwave knocked them off their feet. A group of children in the residential sector cried out for their parents. Soldiers ran through smoke-filled corridors, dragging the injured to safety. The enemy was ruthless. Wave after wave of missiles fell, hitting towers, hangars, and supply depots. Flames roared higher. The smell of burning metal filled the air. From orbit, the alien commander watched with cold satisfaction. His ship hovered like a predator above its prey. To him, this was nothing but a test, an easy strike to prove dominance. The humans had dared to spread beyond Earth, and now they would be punished. Transmit this, the alien commander ordered. His voice was sharp, cruel. Let them hear it as they die. A broadcast cut through the human comms. Earth's children, you were foolish to step into the galaxy. Your kind is weak. Tonight, your colony burns. The message spread fear like poison. People huddled in bunkers, hearing the voice of their destroyers. Many believed it was over before it even began, but not everyone got deep inside the command center. Colonel Ramirez stood firm. His uniform was torn from the blast, his forehead bleeding, but his eyes burned with fire. He slammed his fist against the control panel. Get me every available squad. Get those defense cannons online. I don't care if they're half broken, make them fire. His officers hesitated. Sir, their fleet is too large. We don't stand a chance. Ramirez looked at them, his voice steady, hard as iron. Then we make them bleed anyway. The soldiers moved. Across the base, rail cannons began to stir, their massive barrels turning toward the sky. Engineers, their hands shaking, worked to reroute damaged power lines. Medical teams pulled the wounded from rubble and pushed them into shelters. The alien fleet kept firing. More missiles, more fire, more screams. But for the first time, a rail slug cut upward into the sky, bright as a shooting star. It missed, but the message was clear. Humanity was not finished. In the chaos, whispers spread. Rumors of a secret weapon buried deep underground, a system not yet revealed to the galaxy. Some said it was a myth. Others prayed it was real. As another explosion shook the ground, Colonel Ramirez raised his eyes to the red sky. "They think we are prey," he muttered. "But tonight we show them what humans do when cornered." Above, the alien commander smiled cruelly as more missiles fell. He believed the humans were already broken. He was wrong. The night was no longer silent. It was the beginning of something the galaxy had never seen before. And when the reply came, it would shake the stars themselves. Asterisk, fire and ashes the base earned. Towers once proud now lay in ruins, their shadows flickering in the firelight. The Martian night was no longer calm. It was filled with smoke, screams, and the thunder of collapsing walls. Soldiers dragged the wounded across broken ground, their boots crunching over glass and twisted steel. Medics knelt beside the injured, wrapping wounds with trembling hands as explosions echoed around them. Civilians huddled together in fear, eyes wide, waiting for a miracle. But above them, the alien fleet circled like vultures. Inside the command ship, the alien commander leaned back in his throne-like chair. His four eyes narrowed in satisfaction as the screens displayed human suffering. The destruction pleased him. It was proof of alien superiority, proof that the humans were nothing but fragile intruders on the galactic stage. Pathetic, he hissed. They crumble too easily. But his second officer frowned. "Commander, their defenses are still active. Rail cannons continue to fire, and there are rumors of something hidden beneath the colony." The commander laughed, sharp and bitter. "Rumors? Humans love their myths. They are breaking. That is all that matters." Down on Mars, Colonel Ramirez was not breaking. The command center shook again as another missile detonated nearby, but he stayed on his feet. His voice carried through the chaos, commanding respect and fear in equal measure. "Those power cells to the east sector. Keep those cannons firing. If one goes down, bring another up. We hold this ground, no matter the cost." His officers obeyed, sweat dripping from their faces as they worked with desperate speed. Sparks rained down from broken panels, but the defense cannons thundered again, spitting bright slugs of metal into the sky. One shot missed. Another grazed an alien cruiser, leaving a smoking scar across its hull. The soldiers cheered. It wasn't much, but it was hope. Meanwhile, engineers deep below ground worked in secret halls. These halls were older than the colony itself, built before the first settlers had even arrived. Here, in the dark, lay Project Aegis, a weapon humanity had hidden, a weapon never meant to be revealed unless there was no other choice. The engineers' hands shook as they connected cables and powered up systems. Lights flickered on ancient consoles. Generators rumbled awake. "Are we really doing this?" One young engineer asked, fear in his voice. His superior nodded grimly. "We have no choice. If we don't, there will be nothing left to protect." Back on the surface, the battle raged on. Alien missiles kept falling, tearing open supply depots, crushing vehicles, and sending shockwaves through the ground. Dust and smoke covered the sky until Mars itself seemed to disappear in fire. A squad of soldiers took position near the northern wall, their rifles raised against incoming drones. One soldier, Private Howell, gritted his teeth as he fired round after round. "They think we're done," he muttered, his hands shaking. "They think we'll just roll over." His sergeant shouted back through the roar, "Then let's show them we're not dead yet." And they did. The squad fought hard, destroying several drones before a missile slammed into their sector. The blast threw them into the dirt, leaving only silence behind. Every corner of the base was the same fire, blood, and sacrifice. Still, humanity fought. Alien Commander watched with growing irritation. The humans were weaker. Yes. They were losing ground. Yes. But they did not surrender. Even under endless bombardment, they clawed back with every ounce of strength they had left. This resistance, the commander muttered, tapping his claws against the arm of his chair. It is stubborn. His second officer spoke quietly. Perhaps they are not as weak as we thought. The commander growled, eyes narrowing. Weakness dressed as bravery. Nothing more. But even as he said it, another human rail slug tore through space, slamming into an alien destroyer. The explosion lit up the dark sky, scattering burning debris across the battlefield. Cheers erupted from the humans below, echoing through broken corridors and shattered halls. For the first time, doubt stirred in the alien fleet. Back in the underground chambers, Project Aegis hummed louder. The engineers exchanged nervous glances. As the systems came online one by one, energy readings spiked. Power surged through conduits not touched in decades. The lead engineer whispered, "It's ready." Above, Colonel Ramirez stood in the smoke-filled command center, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion. He looked at the wounded, the dying, the broken buildings. His hands clenched into fists. "Ready or not," he muttered, "we're about to give them a reply they'll never forget." The ground shook again as another missile fell, but this time, beneath the rubble, something greater was stirring. The fire had not destroyed humanity. It had awakened them. Asterisk. The hidden reply: the fires of war still raged above, but far beneath the Martian soil, a different sound began to rise. It was not the crash of missiles or the screams of soldiers. It was the steady hum of ancient power waking from its slumber. In the underground chamber, the engineers of Project Aegis stood in awe. Walls lined with forgotten machines glowed faintly blue as energy surged through thick conduits. Dust fell from the ceiling as turbines older than the colony roared back to life. "This system was built before my father was even born," whispered one technician. His eyes widened at the screens as strange patterns danced across them. The lead engineer, a woman named Dr. Lyra Voss, did not blink. Her hands moved quickly, typing in commands. Sweat rolled down her forehead, but her voice was steady. "Old or not, it's all we have now." Project Aegis was designed for this moment. Today, we see if humanity's gamble pays off. Above ground, the war worsened. Alien cruisers moved closer, launching drones that rained fire onto the base. Every building shook and dust storms rose. Into the red sky, soldiers coughed through smoke as they held their positions with rifles, cannons, and pure stubborn will. Colonel Ramirez stood on the command balcony, staring at the chaos. He could see the fear in his men's faces. He could hear the cries of the wounded. But he also saw something else: defiance. "Hold the line," he shouted into the comms. His voice carried through every speaker in the colony. "They think we are broken. Prove them wrong. Every second you fight, every shot you fire, it brings us closer to our reply." The soldiers cheered, a roar rising. Even in the middle of ruin, they did not understand what Project Aegis was, but they believed. That belief kept their hands steady, even as alien drones closed in from orbit. The alien commander sneered at the display of human resistance. His claws tapped against the edge of his throne. Pathetic. They cling to false hope. He turned to his fleet. "End this. Crush the last of their defenses." Dozens of alien bombers descended, black shapes blotting out the stars. Their missile bays opened wide, ready to turn the colony into nothing but ash. At that moment, deep underground, Project Aegis roared awake. Dr. Voss gripped the console as the lights turned blinding white. Energy readings spiked beyond safe levels. Circuits glowed hot, threatening to melt, but the system held. A new voice joined the room, calm yet powerful, the voice of the Aegis AI. "Activation complete. Defense protocols online. Shall we begin? The engineers stared at one another in shock. The AI's voice was smooth, almost human. Dr. Voss swallowed hard. Begin. The ground above the base shook, not from alien missiles this time, but from within. Hidden doors split open across the colony's surface. From beneath the rubble and sand, massive rail turrets rose, taller than buildings. Their barrels glowed as power surged into them. The alien bombers locked targets, ready to fire. But before they could release their payload, the first rail turret of Project Aegis fired. A thunderclap shook the night. A single shot tore upward, faster than sight. It punched through an alien bomber, cutting the ship in half like paper. The wreckage exploded into fire, raining debris across the battlefield. The soldiers on the ground gasped. Cheers erupted. Another turret fired, then another. Each blast was like lightning striking alien ships from the sky. Cruisers twisted apart. Drones vaporized. The alien fleet's neat formation broke as panic spread through their ranks. Colonel Ramirez's eyes widened. For the first time that night, he allowed himself a thin smile. They wanted a reply, he muttered. Here it is. In orbit, the alien commander stood in disbelief as his ships fell one by one. His officers shouted warnings, reports of damage, screams of fear. Impossible. The commander roared. Where did these weapons come from? Humans should not have this power. But the truth was clear. The humans had been hiding their strength. Down below, the soldiers' morale soared. They watched the skies light up as alien ships exploded, one after another. The fires that had once symbolized their defeat now marked the beginning of their revenge. Private Hall, blood on his uniform, lifted his rifle toward the heavens and shouted, That's it. Give them hell. Project Aegis did exactly that. But even as victory seemed possible, Dr. Voss frowned at her console. Readings spiked higher than safe limits. The system was powerful, too powerful. If pushed too far, it could burn itself out. Whispered to herself, unheard by the cheering soldiers above. This reply may cost us everything. Still, she kept the system running. Humanity had no other choice. The alien fleet regrouped, shaken but not defeated. More ships moved into attack formation, determined to crush the humans before this secret weapon could change the battle completely. And in the command ship, the alien commander's face twisted with rage. His voice was low and venomous. Fine. He growled. If they want war, we will give them war. The battle was far from over. The true war for Mars had just begun. The first counterattack. The sky above Mars was no longer silent. It thundered with fire, light, and death. Alien cruisers spun out of control, their hulls ripped open by the rail shots of Project Aegis. Burning debris rained down onto the red sands, scattering across the battlefield like meteors. For the first time, the humans were not only surviving, they were winning. Colonel Ramirez stood in the command center, his uniform torn, his face covered in soot, but his eyes alive with fire. The comms buzzed with cheers from soldiers across the base. Target down. They're retreating. We can do this. Ramirez's voice cut through the noise, calm but commanding. Listen to me. This is not enough. They tried to wipe us out. Now we hit back, hard. The soldiers listened. The engineers listened. Even the civilians hiding in bunkers could feel the shift. Humanity was no longer only defending, it was preparing to strike back. Above Mars, the alien commander raged. His throne-like seat vibrated as explosions shook his ship. 3 of his cruisers were already destroyed, and more were crippled. He slammed his claws on the console, his voice filled with venom. Reform the line. Push forward. Do not let these primitives think they have power. His officers obeyed, but fear stained their faces. The humans had revealed something terrifying hidden. Weapons that could pierce even alien shields. Still, the commander believed he could crush them. His fleet was larger, older, and more advanced. To him, humans were stubborn pests, nothing more. But stubbornness, when mixed with fire, could become something deadlier. On the ground, the first counterattack began. Project Aegis' massive turrets roared again, firing slug after slug into orbit. Each shot left trails of fire in the thin Martian sky. Alien bombers that once dropped death onto the colony now exploded mid-air, their wreckage scattering like broken toys. Squads of human soldiers pushed forward, rifles raised, fighting through the smoke and rubble. They weren't just defending anymore. They were hunting alien drones in the ruins, clearing sector by sector. Private Howe, bruised and bloodied, wiped the dust from his eyes as he charged through a collapsed corridor. His squad followed close. Behind, firing at the drones swarming in the wreckage. Sparks and metal fragments rained down as the machines fell. Hawley shouted over the gunfire. "They thought we'd break. Let's show them what happens when humans fight back." His men roared in reply, their voices echoing through the broken base. Deep below, Dr. Voss monitored Project Aegis. Her hands shook on the console as power levels climbed dangerously high. The system was working, but it was running hot too. "Hot, Colonel," she said over the comms, her voice tense. "Aegis wasn't designed for this much output. If we keep firing like this, it could burn out or worse." Ramirez answered without hesitation. "Keep it running. If we stop now, we die anyway." Dr. Voss hesitated, then nodded grimly. She pushed the controls forward, forcing Aegis to its limit. The great turrets glowed brighter, their barrels hot with energy. The alien commander watched in fury as another of his cruisers was torn apart, its hull splitting open in a ball of fire. Unacceptable. He roared. His voice echoed across the command deck. Deploy the heavy carriers. Wipe their base from existence. Two massive alien carriers broke formation and descended toward Mars. Each one was a fortress in space, bristling with weapons and holding entire wings of fighters. Inside, their shadows fell across the battlefield like giants ready to crush an insect. Colonel Ramirez saw the new threat appear on the radar. His jaw tightened. "They're bringing everything," he muttered. Then he raised his voice, speaking into the comms. "Listen up. Those carriers are the heart of their fleet. If we break them, the rest will scatter. We've taken their fire. Now it's time to return it." The soldiers roared, their morale burning hotter than the fires around them. The first counterstrike began with precision. Human rail turrets locked onto the nearest carrier and fired in sequence. Slugs of metal the size of tanks screamed upward, slamming into the carrier's shields. The first shot cracked the barrier. The second shattered it. The third tore into the hull, ripping a hole through its side dot from inside the colony. Smaller missile batteries joined in, their warheads streaking into the sky. The carrier shook violently as explosions tore across its body. Fires spread, lights flickered, and alien crews screamed inside the collapsing ship. Private Hawley and his squad cheered as the massive vessel began to fall, breaking apart in orbit. "Look at it burn." One soldier shouted, "They're not gods. They bleed like everything else." The battle for Mars. The surface of Mars had become a battlefield, not just a fight, not a skirmish, a full-scale war. Fire stretched from one edge of the colony to the other. Buildings lay in ruins. Towers that once stood proudly were nothing but twisted steel. The red soil of Mars was now black with ash. Alien fighters screamed across the sky, firing beams into what was left of the human base. Defense cannons roared in return, their barrels glowing white-hot from overuse. Mechs stomped across the battlefield, human pilots inside guiding them through wreckage, blasting drones out of the air with heavy plasma rifles. Private Halle ran. Through the smoke, his face bloody, his helmet cracked. Around him, his squad moved fast between the broken walls of the eastern sector. Above them, a squadron of alien drones hunted like wolves, searching for survivors. "We're pinned." One soldier shouted, "East cannons are down. We've got no cover." Halle looked around and spotted an old comms tower, partially collapsed. "There," he pointed. "We can climb it yet above their sensor range." With no other choice, they ran. Beams of light scorched the ground behind them as the drones opened fire. One man was hit. He didn't scream, just dropped and didn't move. Halle didn't stop. He couldn't. They reached the tower, climbing into the smoke. Halle turned and fired down into the shadows, his rifle glowing with heat. A drone exploded. Mid-air, and another crashed into the wall with a screech. "Keep going," he yelled. "We hold this line or no one walks out of here." Above them, orbit was no safer. The alien fleet reformed around the last surviving carrier. It launched, wave after wave of attack ships, blanketing the upper atmosphere with deadly swarms. Their strategy was simple: overwhelm the humans before Project Aegis could fire again. Inside the command ship, the alien commander watched the battle unfold. His 4 eyes burned with focus. "These humans fight like animals," he said. Cornered, desperate, but dangerous. His second officer hesitated. "Commander, we've lost 40% of the fleet. Do we continue?" He turned slowly. "We finish what we started. No human leaves this rock alive." Inside the Aegis control room, Dr. Lyra Voss was nearly out of breath. The system was overheating. Cooling fans screamed. Sparks jumped from panels. And still, the power core demanded more. "Status?" she asked. Her voice hoarse. An assistant replied, "We can fire again. But one more round at this level, and the core could rupture." She stared at the screen. Every missile that struck the colony reminded her of what was at stake. "Do it," she said quietly. "This is the battle. Right here, right now." The great Aegis turrets shifted once again. Slowly, they locked on to the last carrier above Mars. Their tracking systems followed its movement, even as it darted between clouds and fire. Then the shot. The recoil rocked the entire base. A rail slug the size of a truck screamed through the air and struck the alien carrier dead center. The explosion was instant massive. Flames burst out of every deck. Secondary explosions followed as ammunition stores ignited. Soldiers across the base raised their heads and saw the burning wreck falling from the sky like a meteor. Cheers erupted across every frequency. "They're falling. We got them. One more down." But the cost was high. The Aegis system sparked violently. Alarms rang inside the control room. Dr. Voss stared at the red flashing screen. "Core Sil," she whispered. "We pushed it too far. The system wouldn't last another shot." But the damage had been done. The alien fleet was broken. There, formations scattered. Fighters spun out of control. Many tried to retreat, but not all. Some alien captains, loyal to their commander, stayed. They turned their weapons toward the surface. If they couldn't win, they would take Mars with them. Colonel Ramirez stood on the edge of a crater, his boots sinking into the dust. His cum crackled as he listened to scattered reports. Enemy retreating, still under attack. Massive energy spike detected. He turned to the west. A massive alien destroyer hovered low, charging its main cannon aimed directly at the heart of the colony. "If that thing fires," Ramirez muttered, "we're finished." He clicked into the main channel. "All units converge on Grid 9D. Stop that destroyer. Now." What followed was chaos and courage. Human mechs charged the alien landing craft, jumping into the air, firing missiles mid-leap. Infantry squads sprinted through fire to set up railguns. Civilians even joined, throwing homemade explosives at drone clusters. Private Hall reached the railgun post first. His hands were shaking, his armor cracked, but he aimed at the hovering destroyer. "I've got one shot," he whispered. "Let it count." He fired. The slug tore through the air and hit the destroyer's power coil. It erupted. A flash of off, green light swallowed the cannon before it could fire. The destroyer shuddered and fell. Silence. Then cheers, screams, laughter, sobs. The battle was over. For now. Humanity's vengeance. The fires on Mars still burned, but now they burned behind the humans. Not as signs of destruction, but as marks of survival. Smoke curled into the sky. The alien fleet was scattered, broken. The last of their ships had either fallen, fled, or floated in orbit as glowing wrecks. But inside every human soldier, engineer, doctor, and even Child One truth had taken root. This wasn't over. Colonel Ramirez stood above the shattered remains of the West Defense Wall, looking up into the orange sky. Blood stained his arm. Dust coated his face. But his eyes were clear. "Status?" he asked through the comm. A young officer replied, voice crackling, "Enemy forces in orbit retreating. About 15 vessels remain. Weak, scattered, but they're regrouping." Ramirez nodded slowly. "Then it's time we finish what they started." He tapped his command console. "Activate final strike protocol. Prepare all remaining ships. We take the fight to them." Far below the surface, deep in the half-destroyed Aegis control chamber, Dr. Voss coughed through smoke. Her lab coat was burned. A gash ran down her cheek. Sparks flickered around her. "Ma'am," a technician asked, "the main weapon is gone. What do we use now?" Voss pulled herself up. She limped to the central console and tapped into the SIM. Satellite link. A new system came online. "Not a weapon," she said. "A ship, the Vindicator." It was hidden in the deep hangar. Nuclear engines. Cloak shield. Enough firepower to finish this. The technician stared in awe. But that ship, it's never flown before. It will now. The hidden bay doors opened behind the colony. Dust swirled. Wind howled. From the underground shadows, a massive craft rose sleek, black, and deadly. The Vindicator dot, it looked like a shadow with wings. Twin ion cannons gleamed beneath its belly. The hull shimmered with a cloaking shield. Engraved along the side were the words, "We do not kneel." Ramirez climbed into the command seat, suited in black armor. Dr. Voss took the tactical console. Behind them, 24 elite soldiers buckled in. Every face told the same story: pain, rage, and a hunger for justice. "Let's give them a reason to remember us," Ramirez said. The Vindicator launched in orbit. The alien commander stood alone on the bridge of his failing warship. His crew was gone. The screens flickered. Every command input failed. His fleet had once been proud 60 ships strong. Now there were 15, and none of them wanted to fight. Still, he stared at the red planet below, hatred boiling in his chest. "Humans," he hissed. "You think this is your victory?" Then he saw it. A single dot on the scanner, fast, cloaked, rising from the planet, headed straight for him. He leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "What is that?" The Vindicator tore through space like a missile. Alien fighters tried to intercept it, but they couldn't lock on. Cloaking fields shimmered. Missiles fired blindly. The Vindicator weaved through them with perfect precision. Inside the ship, alarms beeped. The enemy fleet had finally noticed. "Coming in hot," Dr. Voss said. "Enemy lock in 10 seconds." Fire first, Ramirez growled. The ion cannons charged. With a thundering flash, they fired, blasting a hole through an alien corvette. The ship exploded instantly. Before the aliens could react, the Vindicator was already gone, vanishing into their blind spot. Ship after ship fell. 1, 2, 3. Explosions lit up the void. Human vengeance painted the stars in fire. Inside the enemy command ship, the alien commanders screamed orders. Defensive screen. All shields up. Destroy that thing. But it was too late. The Vindicator shot forward, nose first into the bridge. Its final payload, a fusion core armed. Inside, Ramirez gave the last command. To the people of Earth. This is for all of us. He closed his eyes. A bright flash followed. A soundless final light in the black. The Vindicator struck the heart of the enemy. The explosion tore through the command ship, vaporizing it in seconds. Shockwaves ripped through the remaining fleet. Without their leader, the alien ships turned and ran, scattered like ash on the wind. Mars was silent once more. But this time, the silence was not from fear. It was from peace. Back on the colony, survivors stood beneath the red sky. Soldiers helped one another. Engineers began rebuilding. Civilians came out from shelters. Children pointed to the sky where the last explosion had faded. Did we win? One of them asked. A tired soldier smiled. We didn't just win. We proved something. Dr. Voss stepped forward, covered in ash, her eyes on the horizon. We showed the galaxy what happens when you push humanity too far. The message to the stars: the battle was over. The smoke had faded. The fire had cooled. But Mars would never be the same again. All around the base, survivors worked in silence. Not because there was nothing to say, but because words felt too small. The sky above was calm, finally free of enemy ships. No missiles, no explosions. Just the stars, shining quietly like they always had. But now, the galaxy knew. Those stars belonged to Earth too. Dr. Lara Voss stood at the edge of the crater where the West Tower used to be. Her coat was torn. Her hands were dirty. Her face held both pain and peace. She looked up at the quiet sky and whispered, "He did it." Ramirez's sacrifice had ended it all. The Vindicator was gone. So was the enemy fleet. But his voice still echoed in her mind. We don't start wars, but we finish them. A temporary command center was set up inside a half-destroyed hangar. Screens flickered. Power lines sparked. But it worked. The remaining officers gathered. Scientists, soldiers, engineers all stood in a circle, bruised and battered but alive. They had one final mission: to speak to the galaxy. Dr. Voss stepped forward. The comm systems were patched into long-range broadcast beacons. Across the stars, thousands of systems could now hear one voice. She didn't wear medals. She didn't need armor. She just looked into the camera, calm, steady, human. And then she spoke. This is Mars Colony 01. Earth's first step beyond home. We were attacked. Without warning, without mercy. Thousands of our people died. Children, workers, defenders. They came to destroy us. They failed. She took a breath. The room was silent behind her. No one moved. We are not invaders. We are not conquerors. We came to Mars to build, to explore, to learn. But when you bring war to our doorstep, we will not run, we will not kneel. You thought humanity would break. Instead, we stood. We lost heroes. We lost friends. We lost parts of ourselves. But in the ashes, we found something stronger. We found each other. Her voice grew firm now, clear, to those who watched this happen and said nothing. Remember what you saw. To those who cheered when our colony burned. Remember what followed. And to those who are planning the next war, remember Mars." She paused, then added the final words slowly, with meaning. "Humanity is not alone anymore, and we are not afraid." The transmission ended. Silence followed, but across the stars, it was heard. Alien governments sat in stunned silence. Old empires shifted in their chairs. Pirates, warlords, and distant watchers paused their broadcasts. They had always laughed at Earth primitive, young, untested. Now, they weren't laughing. Back on Mars, the survivors began to rebuild. Craters became gardens. Broken towers became homes again. Machines cleared rubble while children planted seeds. Every wall still standing was painted with the same words. In large, bold letters, "We endure." Private Hall walked through the base, his arm in a sling. A child ran up to him, tugging on his sleeve. "Is it true?" The boy asked. "That you helped stop them?" Halal smiled, tired but proud. "I didn't stop them alone. None of us did. But yeah, kid, we did it. Together." At the edge of the colony, a new statue was placed. It showed a soldier standing tall, weapon lowered, hand reaching upward toward the stars. Not in anger, but in hope. At the plaque below read, "For those who stood when the stars fell. For those who rose when all seemed lost. This is not the end. This is the beginning." That night, under the calm Martian sky, Dr. Voss sat alone outside the lab. She held a data chip in her hand. It contained the recording of Ramirez's final orders, his voice one last time before he gave everything. She played it quietly. His voice crackled through the speaker. "Protect them. All of them. If we must fall to save them, then let's fall like giants." She smiled, eyes filled with tears. "You didn't fall," she whispered. "You rose, and we rose with you." Far across the stars, in the quiet corners of the galaxy, humanity's message echoed. And in those dark places, some trembled. Some watched. Some planned. But all remembered one thing. Humanity replied. And the galaxy would never forget it. Asterisk.